commitment to developing a world that is centered on empowerment and self-determination. Thanks. I would now, slow down. I would now like to turn to introducing our speaker, Bob Sleppy. Bob has made it his life's mission to raise awareness around the tragedy of suicide, using Nuki Space as a means to advocate for and alleviating the suffering of those dealing with brain illnesses while fighting to end the stigma around mental illness. Nuki Space, which puts an emphasis on musicians, artists, and creators, has been named to the prestigious Bulldog 100 list 5 times in the last 10 years. He's making it happen. Bob earned his undergraduate and graduate degree from the University of Georgia, including a certificate in nonprofit management and leadership from our Institute for Nonprofit Organizations. This important initiative provides the training, education, and counsel needed for the nonprofit organizations to serve and succeed, and it's an essential piece of our approach to social work, higher education, and career development. Today, Bob teaches several courses at the School of Social Work in the Master of Arts in Nonprofit Management and Leadership program, and we are thrilled to honor him today. It's great to have you. So please give a welcome to our keynote speaker, Bob Sleppy.
Thank you, Dean Cornelius, faculty, staff, honored guest, students, family, and friends. I am honored and humbled to be here. Especially, this is my tribe, so it means a lot that I have the opportunity to speak. Shortly after I was asked to give today's keynote address, I searched for inspiration. I scoured my favorite books, music, looked for historical figures, quotes. I thought to myself, do I choose something academic sounding? Because I want to sound smart. So should it be Aristotle or Plato or Euripides? Maybe I should go with something, with some historical significance. Maybe something from Abraham Lincoln or JFK, Marcus Aurelius or Martin Luther King Jr. Should I focus on personal heroes that have helped me? People like John Lewis, Nelson Mandela, or my parents. I even asked my 13-year-old daughter what might be kind of cool and hip. I suggested maybe something from Harry Styles or Rihanna, maybe Tyler, the Creator, Yee. Fortunately, for both my sake and yours, she quickly shot a look at me with her confident and teenage superiority and said, "No, Dad, just no. Don't do that." Then I thought for a moment about who I was speaking to. Now, I have to admit, I've cracked a few jokes and made a few quips about younger generations over the years to my friends. And to cut myself a little slack, the millennials who preceded y'all, they kind of made it easy for us. So, as I reflected on this particular graduating class and what you all have endured, I realized something. You guys are tenacious. You are bulldogs through and through. You've been challenged from day one, and you've persevered. You've had every moment of your lives documented on social media and held to a standard, and often self-imposed, y'all, that is unrealistic. Many of you were born or very young around the events of 9/11. You grew up in the shadow of the US-led invasions of Afghanistan and Iraq. Your parents and loved ones struggled through a financial crisis and global recession, while you struggled through season after season after season of keeping up with the Kardashians. Your tolerance for pain and the absurd is admirable. In all seriousness, you have endured all of that and what we all hope will become a once-in-a-lifetime global pandemic. And if that wasn't enough, because I think you all seem to be gluttons for punishment, you thought, hey, I will maybe attend the University of Georgia during this time and complete a rigorous academic program. I'm not sure about y'all. But as a child of the 80s, I feel like I was indoctrinated into the virtue of tenacity. My experience was further compounded because I'm born and raised in Philadelphia. The sons and daughters of Philly, much like Southerners, possess strong ties to family and value community. The city of brotherly love is also known for its toughness, its tenacity. In 1980, as an 8-year-old kid in Philadelphia, there was no better example of toughness than Rocky Balboa. For those of you who may be unaware, Rocky is a fictional character portrayed by Sylvester Stallone and is the protagonist of the Rocky film series. The title character is a working-class, poor Italian-American from the slums of Philadelphia who is an amateur club fighter aspiring to be a professional boxer. Then suddenly, one day, just overnight, he's plucked from obscurity to fight the reigning world heavyweight champion in an exhibition match. Rocky, of course, is the underdog, who is challenged with overcoming obstacles in his life, his relationships, and his career. The night before the big fight, in a moment of self-doubt, he confesses to his wife that he doesn't think he can win. But he wants to prove to himself that he can go the distance. Much to everyone's surprise, the fight goes to the full 15 rounds. Both fighters are severely beaten and broken. Although it's obvious he's the inferior boxer, Rocky seemingly has this unlimited ability to absorb punches from his opponent, and refusal to give up allows him to reach his goal. So I'm sure you have lots of questions. One, is this guy almost done? The next one is why am I championing the virtue of a fictional boxer to a room full of social workers, nonprofit leaders, scholars and educators, social entrepreneurs, and social justice advocates? Well, my early introduction to these stories of tenacity and perseverance propelled me into a life of service. I wanted to fight on behalf of the underdog, the people who had cards stacked against them or could not fight for themselves. Those fictional characters helped me recognize attributes that I admired in real-life heroes. People like Jackie Robinson, Billie Jean King, Martin Luther King Jr., Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Marsha P. Johnson, and Harvey Milk. The man I have been most inspired by is the late civil rights hero and leader, Congressman John Lewis. He and I share a favorite poem called Invictus, which I have returned to often throughout my life. It was written by William Ernest Henley in 1875, and it reads, "Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul." Now, it's been over 30 years since I was first introduced to those words by my favorite teacher from high school, Mrs. Vale, and they still stick with me. Amid personal adversity, the line that always sticks out to me is, "My head is bloody, but unbowed." For me, there is strength in those words, a defiance, a resilience, and an unwillingness to yield to the obstacles ahead. I'm drawn to an image of a young John Lewis who, as a college student, became an activist in the civil rights movement, eventually emerging as one of its most important leaders. Despite repeated physical assaults and attempts on his life, Lewis was dedicated to the principle and philosophy of nonviolence, a path that he followed for the duration of his life until his death just a couple years ago in 2020. Throughout his 80 years, he remained undeterred. I am inspired by how many battles John Lewis won without ever having to throw a punch. Now, although the Rocky films have fallen flat in many of its sequels, plagued by sloppy and predictable screenwriting, and helping to usher the term toxic masculinity into the American lexicon, the franchise eventually redeems itself, in my opinion. In the last installment of the movie franchise, set nearly 30 years after its premiere, Rocky is now an old, broken man who's been retired from the sport for some time. He's lost his wife to cancer. Most of his close friends have also passed. And on one night, on the same gritty streets of South Philly neighborhood that he grew up, he has a heated exchange with his son, who is now a grown man. The son expresses to his dad how hard it was to grow up in his father's shadow and the adversity he faced of being Rocky's kid. Rocky, who's visibly irritated, turns to his son and says, and you don't have to worry, I'm not going to try to mimic Rocky, but he says, "Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is going to hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That is how winning is done." At the beginning of your program, when you took your first steps into our building over on William Street, many of you were filled with unbridled optimism and passion. You came to serve. You were driven by a deep desire to help people. Some of you may have actually believed that we did make rainbows and sunshine in our little building by the river. But our goal is not to diminish your optimism and passion, but we wanted to put power and strength behind those potent feelings. Our responsibility as educators is to teach you about how the world is, and then for us to listen, collaborate, and help you shape a vision for how the world should be. I hope that we provided you with the tools you'll need to initiate that change, bring people together, and empower our communities. Unfortunately, you will be the underdog in the battles ahead. And I'm not going to sugarcoat the future for you either. There will be days when the challenges you face will feel insurmountable. You may choose to focus on voting rights, climate justice, affordable health care, the refugee crisis, racial injustice, the widening income gap, gun violence, hunger and food insecurity, equality, human trafficking, or education. Or maybe you'll join me in the fight for quality mental health care and suicide prevention. Regardless of your path, it won't be easy. Money alone will not solve our problems. We will not be able to consume our way to a solution. We cannot bomb our way to peace and prosperity. We won't be able to count on billionaires to whisk us off to faraway planets on their fancy rockets. To paraphrase a well-known quote in our field, you will have to be the change that we see in the world. You are no longer doe-eyed dreamers, you are fighters. Please remember, regardless of how many times you are pushed back, keep moving forward. When you get knocked down, get up and keep moving forward. Be a champion in your own right. Choose your own path to fulfill the mission to serve others. You will not be alone. You now have the tools you need to win. You are ready. And when or if you need us, we will be there, all of us, and we'll be there in your corner. Congratulations, and thank you for allowing me to be a part of this special day for you. Thanks. Actually, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask for one more call to action. And I'm hoping that the alumni and maybe my fellow faculty will help me with this. You may have done this once or twice during a sporting event, so You had better join in. You make me do this by myself, I'm not going to be happy. Go!